Hello, this is Cotton Soups and welcome back to another Lumi Legacy HTUC video. And today's video we're going to be talking about Lantorch, one of the first Lumions that I'll be covering for the yokai theme, the event Lumions for Lumi Legacy. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. From the counters and checks and teammates in order to know how to use Lantorch in your battles, as well as knowing the roles and sets in order to team build around Lantorch. Today's video we're going to be talking about how to use and counter Lantorch. So the role that Lantorch is going to be playing in your matches is all reliant on how its base stats actually work. And first off, its base stats overall, they're not really great. You are so frail and kind of is a pretty good simile to the fact that it's literally a paper lantern, and it does have paper defenses, and it only has a decent energy stat of 80, which is not even on par with the starters, so you're gonna have to invest quite a bit of TPs, although that wouldn't really be important because you're not gonna be investing those TPs anywhere else. Other than that, you do have a pretty good pair of speed and range attack. Your range attack of 113 allows you to be a pretty good Lumion in order to actually just throw off a bunch of moves, and which will most likely be hitting pretty hard. And your speed stat of 93 does get undersped by the likes of Eclipse, Ikazune, Vesperatu, Volcaloa, Tatab. However, it does outspeed most wall breakers such as Valkyrie, Dragonin, Halvantic, Odayaga, Soulburst Eruptodon, and pretty much all the walls. So this makes Lantorch a pretty good Lumion with some mixed attacking potential. It does have a melee attack stat of 98, I forgot to put that on the video, and it is a pretty decent cleaner overall. You're not going to be wanting to use Lantorch against teams that already have faster stuff than you, so you're going to try and use Lantorch against more bulkier or slower teams, so your speed tier isn't really a problem for you. And of course, you do have items that can remedy your speed tier. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the sets. So Lantorch actually has two viable abilities, and first off we're going to be starting off with the Wildfire set. Your ability Wildfire will make it so you can go first with a fire type move as long as you're above 58% HP. So basically Thaumin's mind type ability, and your personality is going to be very smart, frail, tender. We're going to be abusing our stab ability with fire breath so we can actually go first for pretty much the majority of the time. This will make it pretty easy for us, and of course since we're going first, we might as well max out our damage. Frail Tender is of course going to be the stats we're going to be lowering because we're not using melee attack and we cannot drop any other defense, because as frail as we are, we still can live some hits. And of course Tender, you want to lower our lower attacking stats, so you can try and prep for a Protogon, but overall just don't try and make your other stats even lower. Your moveset is going to be Fire Breath, Flare, and then Power Focus. These three moves are going to be your core moves. Power Focus is so you can actually try and abuse your Wildfire ability, and your final move can be Flash and Flee or Fade Away. Fade Away is more lenient and can help you in better matchups against Lumions or teams that don't have light types, but Fade Away is not going to be as good as Flash and Flee, as you do have coverage for plant types, so you can hit those neutrally or super effectively with Fire Breath. And then Flash and Flee, you're able to pivot out of the light types such as Jalusa and Luminami, which you don't really want to be up against. As for your items, you're going to want to run the Clutch Plushie or a Choice of Essence. Clutch Plushie will make it so you can live any hit if needed. Choice Essence will of course make it so you can choose whether or not you want to boost your light or fire attacks. And then of course you can try and run the Milkshake, so you can try and recover HP if you are lost, so you can get back your Wildfire ability. However, that is pretty niche and is only pretty good on more other Lumions, so that is a pretty much an extra slot if you don't have a Lumion that wants Milkshake. Other than that, these are the TPs, and this is going to be the same for the other set. 84 energy, get up to 250 energy, 200 range attack, 200 speed, just run it very simply, and then the 16 HP are the leftovers. Other than that, we do have a Do or Die set, which is going to be utilizing Do or Die, and the personality will be very nimble, foolish, and tender. This will be utilizing our personality so it can be as fast as possible. And because we don't have our priority with wildfire, you want to be as fast as possible, because if you try and run very smart, you're going to be outpaced by pretty much every single Lumion in the speed tiers above you. So trying to get a jump on that is definitely good. Your moveset is going to be Fire Breath as always. Make sure you have that there. And then Flare, Luster Loot is going to be either or your Light Stab, and then Flash and Flee or Luster Loot. Usually I would run Flare and Flash and Flee because of our item. Flare is just a good ability, do not drop this, and Luster Loot kind of synergizes with Do or Die. However, you just want to hit as hard as possible. And then Fade Away is, of course, we're going to be running this so we can specifically hit Lumions such as Cleone and other mine types. Cleone would normally wall our coverage, but with Fade Away, we're able to hit it super effectively. And the reason why we're running 4 moves and not Power Focus is 1, because we're losing HP, and then 2, you have these specialty boots. Specialty boots will allow us to outspeed pretty much anything in front of us. You do have to watch out for some Lumions in the higher echelons of speed tiers running boots. However, those are never going to be happening. Like a boots Zulong is very rare, and specialty boots combined with very nimble will allow you to outspeed pretty much anything that's going to be running nimble and running boots. So for example, you can outspeed niche Lumions such as Ikazune or Totab, and V-Nimble is just so we can utilize boots as well and not drop a melee attack or range attack in our personality. And then the TPs, it's just the same as before. So with that out of the way, let's get right on to the counters and checks and teammates for Lantorch. So offensive and defensive counters and checks. First off, let's go over the offensive ones. Usually, Jalusa is going to be your best bet as it does resist all of Lantorch's coverage, and other options such as Seer Knight offensively also work. Vesperatu and then Boots Halvantic are also good things at checking it normally, just offensively checking it. Vesperatu, you have to make sure it's Boots, same story for Halvantic. Other than that, you want to make sure that Jalusa and Luminami, they're your best answers, along with Cleone and Gasstroke being other answers, but both are kind of weak to Fade Away, so you want to watch out for that. And as for Pyrelin, Pyrelin just walls any type of Lantorch set that the opponent is trying to run, other than maybe a very brawny Lantorch, but that's really not a worry as your other Lumions can take advantage of that. Other than that, here's some offensive and defensive cores I would suggest for Lantorch. And first off, Lantorch and Nevermare. This is a pretty good core as Nevermare can support Lantorch by swapping in on the likes of Cleone, Jalusa, and Luminami mainly, which supports Lantorch because Lantorch doesn't want to swap in on any of them. Other than that, you can pair Jalusa and Umbrat as a core because they of course cannot prepare for Cleone, Soulburst Gasstroke, and Pyrelin alone. Jalusa being able to cover for Pyrelin, and then Umbrat being able to cover for Soulburst Gasstroke. If you do not want to run Umbrat, then Vesperatu is also another good option as it can just pretty much shut down Soulburst Gasstroke along with running Dragoon instead of Umbrat or Vesperatu. And then as for Jalusa, Cleone is also a good option, specifically Dust Peace of Mind Cleone, as it can beat Pyrelin and Soulburst Gasstroke together. And here's some defensive teammates. Usually you want to run this on more offensive teams, so running hazard support from the likes of Dokomori and Gargoyle defense is needed. Of course, running pivot support from Cleone and Dokomori so you can bring it in a lot more easier. And of course, Soulburst Gasstroke also works pretty well. However, Soulburst Gasstroke only really works in stopping the likes of Pyrelin, Jalusa, and then that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the synergy that Soulburst Gasstroke can really provide. Other than that, you don't really want to use this on this type of team. So with that out of the way, let's get right on to the conclusion and my thoughts on Lantorch. So Lantorch looks to be a pretty decent Lumion, just to say the least. Lantorch has a lot of problems specifically being answered by pretty much any pure light type in the game that doesn't have one of Lantorch's coverages being neutral to. So that's a huge major issue for Lantorch, and the fact is it's very frail and it's not having the best of speed tiers, so you're forced to run boots is also another problem for it, because with coverage like that you'd want to use that coverage to your full extent, and because you're kind of forced to run boots to actually make sure your speed tier and bulk isn't too much of a problem for getting revenge killed, this makes Lantorch a very questionable pick for most teams. And of course, you do have the mixed potential, however, that won't really be the best until you get other high base power fire and or light type moves. So as of right now, I wouldn't really suggest using Lantorch at all. However, what do you think? Do you think Lantorch is a good Lumion, or do you think it's just horrible, it's bad, it doesn't have any niches? Make sure you let me know down in the comment section below, and yeah, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember that Zulong is still a dumpster fire.